Good morning. First, we want to take this time to offer a moment of silence on behalf of the victims of this morning's tornado in Springdale. Thank you. As we share the past 8 weeks, on February 1st, the City Board passed a resolution declaring a public health emergency in the city of Little Rock because of the uptick in violence. In these last 8 weeks, we've responded to this emergency situation in a number of different productive ways. We're seeing results, but we still have more work to do. We all know crime is up nationally. Here in Little Rock, it's up 11%, but data suggests it is trending downward. We know at the beginning on January 31st, 2022, crime was up 26%. As of the last week, it's somewhere around 11%. So we see this downward trend, and that is because of the hard work of the men and women of the Little Rock Police Department. That's because of the hard work of community members seeing something and saying something, and we're so grateful that we're seeing this data, this downward trend. But it's also due to a collaborative, multifaceted approach to crime prevention. It is important to remember that addressing the root causes of crime, socioeconomic status, education level, and other factors take time and resources. We cannot wave a magic wand to solve crime. What we understand is we're seeing domestic violence, we're seeing acquaintance violence, we're seeing drug activity, and the men and women of the Little Rock Police Department are responding each and every day, and we're so grateful for them. What we can do is unite behind a common goal for common good and move forward together to address this problem. We are providing solutions to the problem. We're not talking about it, we're doing things. And that's the reason why we've been focused on our community violence reduction plan. That's why we continue to enhance the plan. And that's why we have this dual approach of both proactive policing and prevention and intervention efforts that are focusing on the root causes of crime to prevent it and change a lifetime of generations. We're committed to our police department and supporting them in a number of different ways. And that's why on Monday at our Little Rock State of the City address, I propose raises for entry-level police officers. We've already increased the sign-on bonus from $5,000 to $10,000. We've given our police officers a 2% raise, and we know we need to do more. And that's the reason why we have to continue to remain one of the highest paid police departments in the state of Arkansas, but be competitive not only in the state of Arkansas, across the nation. We need more frontline workers like our emergency communication employees to answer 911 calls more quickly and decrease response time. We are also adding COP officers who practice community policing and live in the communities they serve. Little Rock Police Department is in the process of hiring 4 social workers. We've already have a team, and we're continuing to do that to ensure that our officers are responding to true law enforcement issues and not mental health issues. We have made an employment offers for 3 positive intervention and transition coordinator positions, and with those, we will have 5 full-time employees in those vital roles. We will also have a new street team outreach specialist starting April 11th, with another slated on board later next month. I've spoken often on my plan to help reduce crime by removing blight, adding light in more targeted areas, and providing additional recreation opportunities like midnight basketball. And here's the reason why. When we're seeing majority of our homicides and those committing crimes are between the ages of 11 and 24, we have to have more things for our youth to do. We have to keep them not only having opportunity and inspiration, but productivity. That's the reason why we continue to focus on the hiring of our summer youth employment opportunities and having all of these activities to ensure that our children are not on the streets living a life of crime, but are doing things that are very productive. Later this year, I asked the City Board to allocate more American Rescue Plan Act money to keep our focus on crime prevention and reduction for at least the next 2 years. We've already allocated close to $2 million of the American Rescue Plan Act, and we want to continue to get more dollars out in those resources for prevention and intervention efforts. Very soon, we'll be announcing the members of our HOPE Council, HOPE standing for Holistic Outreach and Prevention in each and every neighborhood. We will ensure that we have these individuals in place to continue to give us new ideas and new strategies on how we focus on addressing the root causes of crime. We will also continue to host listening sessions throughout the city to hear about what's going on in our neighborhoods. Our next Courageous Conversations meeting is Monday night at Second Baptist downtown. Again, that's Monday night at Second Baptist downtown. During my State of the City address, I also told many of us that this crime affects me personally. Of the now 16 homicides, I've been to several of the funerals. Many of the individuals I actually grew up with. The crime is happening in the neighborhoods that I live, neighborhoods that I frequent in. I get a phone call each time there's a homicide. And each time there's a homicide, certain things in me diminish. This is important for our entire city. It's important that we save our generation because it makes no sense that we have youth that are dying and do not see life past 25. And quite frankly, most of those youth, most of these homicides, nearly 100%, look like me. And that's the reason why, while we're focusing on proactive policing, we have to focus on prevention and intervention. We have to ensure that we provide opportunities for our youth. That's how we stop the crime. For the long term, not just the short term. We have to address it for the long term. And so with that being said, I want to take this time to bring, as we do every week on this Wednesday, is Chief Humphrey and his team, who's here with us today, Assistant Chiefs Bewley, Haskins, and Helton, who are all working each and every day to lead the Little Rock Police Department. And that's the reason why we're seeing this downward trend. And we also know there's still more work to do. Chief Humphrey.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. Before I'd be remiss if I did not reach out and say thank you to the wonderful women and men of our police department. Chief Haskins, thank you. Chief Bewley, Chief Helton, thank you for your leadership. It's a team effort in order to, as the mayor said earlier, go from 26% down to 11, and we're continuing. That's still not good enough. We want to continue to drive it down, violent crime down lower. But I would like to thank Mayor Scott for his commitment to our police department, recruiting and retention of officers as we grow Little Rock forward. Today I want to provide an update on our 15th and 16th homicides for the year. And one occurred in the 2900 block of West Markham. It occurred following an altercation between an employee, Mr. Charles Willis, and an unknown suspect. We are actively looking for this suspect. In speaking with the detectives, we are confident that we will identify this suspect involved in this horrendous act. Mr. Willis was just doing his job, and that's what makes this so tragic. Any homicide is tragic, but you have someone who's doing their job, and they lose their life doing their job. So I want prayers to the family of Mr. Willis and to the co-workers for his tragic death. And then on Sunday in the 5700 block of Patterson Road, we responded to an incident where a gentleman was found inside of a vehicle. He was pronounced deceased. At this time, we don't have a lot of information that we can provide to at this conference based on the fact that we're still waiting to get a positive identification on the victim and also information that we're following up, leads that we're following up regarding the suspect in this vehicle. Suspect in this incident. But one of the things I do want to say, these were two violent incidents involving weapons. As we have said before, there's other methods of settling disagreements. Number one, don't get involved in a disagreement. Number two, let's talk it out. Conflict resolution is a problem here, a lack of it in this city, throughout the nation. We need to look for those opportunities to have more conflict resolution. And so I would just say that we don't need to be settling our differences with weapons. This seems to be throughout the nation, this seems to be a problem, that people don't talk anymore. People pull weapons, people become violent, and we need to stop that. And so I would just remind the citizens of this city of that. The other thing that I'd like to talk about is that this past weekend, we did have an acquaintance violence incident that occurred in the downtown area. It's a battery one. It was an altercation between a male and a female. Following this altercation, we had 3 individuals that were shot. They were actually transported to the hospital by a private vehicle. And this goes on to talk about the concern. I continue to say this, but these type of incidents are very, very disheartening, very sad, and I truly believe there's not an incident. When I look back at our homicides this year, and I look back at the incidents involving weapons, all of those incidents should never have happened. For whatever reason, they should never have happened. And when you do this, it does cause people to feel as though that there's danger in the city. And so I just want to say, you know, if you're going to argue, do it so in a manner that adults, or do it so in a manner that it's a win-win for both. It's okay to agree to disagree. That's the message that I'm trying to send here. The other thing is, on Monday we had an incident in the Bankhead area, I-40, Jones Street, near I-440. What I can tell you right now, we had individuals sitting in a car. Someone shot those individuals. 2 of those individuals we know for a fact were from Pine Bluff. One of the individuals from North Little Rock. So none of the 3 individuals involved in this incident were Little Rock residents. We know that for a fact. I can't give you more details than that right now because this is an ongoing investigation. But I do want to just verify that those individuals that were victims of this offense were not Little Rock residents. As Mayor Scott has said in the past, this is a public emergency, public health emergency, and it's going to take implementation of every tool that we have in the city, not just the police department, but every department in this city, every resident in this city, every nonprofit. We got to have a holistic approach. And I mentioned earlier, I just want to kind of share with you all, we are working hand in hand with Pine Bluff Police Department. We realize that the issues that are occurring in both cities, involving individuals from both cities that are going to each city and committing these offenses. We feel as though we have an amazing relationship with that city, with that police department. I will tell you that I'm in constant contact with the police chief there. I know that Mayor Scott talks to Mayor Washington on a regular basis, and so we are working hand in hand, and also with other cities, to ensure that we can get an understanding of why these offenses are occurring. So let me just tell you about some of the things that we're doing in a proactive manner. This Monday, April the 4th, we will have our second Courageous Conversations at Second Baptist Church downtown. That's located at 222 East 8th Street. As you know, we had one previously about a month ago. It was very positive. We are, as the police department, we are giving citizens and others who come to the city an opportunity to have conversations with us. We are listening, so it's not always about responding, it's about listening. So we're taking these opportunities to listen, and you would be surprised at the number of concerns and questions and answers, solutions that citizens have. I'm amazed at that. I'm happy for that. The first one, we got a lot of information. We've been discussing that information, so we think that this will continue to be the same way. Anytime we can hear from our community leaders, anytime we can hear from our partners about solutions. And you know, the interesting thing is we're starting to hear from a lot of our younger adults, those being in high school, those individuals that may be the college age. They're giving us information and providing insight on what it would take. So I wanted to say thank you to those citizens that's providing that information, especially the youth. Starting this week, starting April the 14th, we will start our quarterly community meetings in each police division. It starts April the 14th, so we will have those at our 12th Street station, our Southwest station, and our Northwest station. So the 14th starts that, and then each consecutive week on the same day we'll have those. And this time we're getting away for just the virtual. We will have virtual and in-person meetings because we've asked people have asked us to when we're getting back to the in-person, so we're going to do that. As we always talk about the graphics, I always want you all to see the graphics of what we're talking about. Just remember, our city is 123 square miles, and we are 203,000, a populated city of 203,000. And as you see, the crime that we're talking about, our violent crime, is isolated to small pockets within the city. I think that's very important. I've said that before because I don't want the perception that crime is all over the city. Crime happens, but the crimes that we're talking about, the violent crimes, are isolated to small pockets of the city. And that is why it's important for us to provide these graphs. I'm gonna say this again, 123 square miles, 203,000 people, and we have our violent crime isolated to a small area. So I wanted to share that. As you can see, the information is focusing on what we have now is focusing on our 12th Street substation. The borders of that in the downtown area, Broadway East to the Clinton Library, and from the river south to 6th Street. The region also includes Main Street all the way to 17th. So this is the area, when we talk about our downtown area, this is the area we're talking about. The entire sub-region of the 12th Street Division accounts for about 4% of the crime within the division. 4% of the crime happens within this area, the majority of those being property crimes. So I just wanted to clarify that. The majority of those crimes being property crimes. However, unfortunately, a violent offense is what we call a Part 1 offense, can happen anywhere. So it's not just isolated to these areas that we have, it can happen anywhere. And crimes sometimes occur regardless of the place, regardless of anyone's best efforts. And so I want to remind the community of that, but we're going to continue to do everything we can do to continue to keep this city safe. Residents and visitors to the downtown area or anywhere else in the city should always remember to pay attention to their surroundings. And I've said that before. Please pay attention to surroundings. Make sure your doors are locked, keep valuables out of plain sight, and please remember, do not leave weapons inside of vehicles. So far this year, we have seized 181 weapons, and we have made 141 arrests related to those weapons. 181 weapons, 141 arrests related to those weapons. And as I said, nearly half the guns reported in 2021 were taken from vehicles. So just remember that. We can stop crimes against us, and we can stop crimes against others by securing and hiding our valuables. The other way that I would ask residents to engage with our department is when you see something, say something. We have an anonymous line, tip line, 501-371-4636, and there are other helpful numbers, but this is 501-371-4636. If you have any information about any crime, especially any type of gun violence, but any crime, we would appreciate that information. We know that offenders will often talk about the plans before and after they commit crimes, so if you hear of anything, please provide that information to our anonymous tip line. If it is possible that some purported commercial enterprises may be selling guns or any illegal items, please let us know. And so also I would like to say that I've made this very clear, this is in closing, I've made this very clear. All gun crimes and all violent crimes, but specifically gun crimes, will be referred to the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency, ATF. We have increased our numbers of our task force officers that working with the ATF. We have met with the United States Attorney in this district, in this region, and they have assured us that every gun crime that we can provide them will be prosecuted federally. And what that means, that's harsher sentencing, longer sentencing, and it's a no tolerance for violent crime in our city. So I'll say that again, all gun crimes will be prosecuted under federal law, which means 85 to 95% of a sentence will be served by individuals who commit these type of crimes. So I just wanted to put that out there. I want to tell the criminals out here, don't say you weren't warned, that we're going for the maximum sentence for any type of gun crime. And also in closing, I just can't stress enough the hard work that these officers are doing out here on the street daily. They have taken a vested interest in, they have a vested interest in diminishing violent crime, reducing it, and they're showing it each and every day. So I just wanted to say thank you to our officers, thank you to our citizens, and be sure to follow our social media platforms for additional information. Thank you all.
We'll take a few questions.
You both mentioned long-term approaches to fighting crime and making sure that this stays as a safe city. But what is being done currently or right now to guarantee this upcoming weekend doesn't end up like last weekend?
Sure. One of the things when we talk about, thank you for recognizing that we're focusing both on the short term and the long term. When we talk about proactive policing, that is a focus on targeted areas, increase in patrols. We do have a street comms unit of somewhere between 20 to 25 officers that are doing very much proactive policing in addition to the regular patrol officers there. Chief Humphrey, would you like to give any comments?
So we're going to continue to do as we do every weekend. We focus on our data. We focus on our intel. The intel provides information that allows us to provide our resources, to deploy our resources where we need to. So, the thing about it, when you have 203,000 people in a city, you just never know when someone is going to go to a point where they feel as though they have to take someone's life. I can tell you, no one would have expected this to happen at Pizza Day Action. Nobody would have expected this gentleman to be found deceased on Patterson. And so the things that we're doing we are out there, we are in the areas that we know historically, and the areas that we know based on the details and the intel that we're providing, we're in those areas. And so, the visibility is there, the passion is there, the intel is there, and there's not a police department in the nation that's not using their intel. And also, as I said, I took 2 calls this week from citizens regarding things that they've been seeing, and so that's information that we get and that we utilize. So I can assure you that each and every day we're prepared to go out here and continue to drive crime down.
Next question.
The Chief or Assistant Chief Bewley, obviously everybody hopes that the combination of community policing and long-term community resources will reduce the violent crime level, but right now we're dealing with a lot of murders, a lot of violent crime. You haven't really talked about adding more people to the homicide detective team. I've talked to them. I'm sure you know better than me that those men and women are tired. They've been overworked and they're still overworked. Is there any plan to get them some sort of relief? Like I said, it may not be a long-term thing, but right now we're getting it.
Chief Bewley.
So I'm going to go back a little bit because I've managed the detective division back then as far back as 2002. The number of homicide detectives we have now basically mirrors what we had then. And a little bit of misconception when we have an incident occur, all of the homicide detectives may come out on that, but there is a rotation basis of how they are assigned to the cases. So they are busy, there's no question. And that's kind of an ebb and flow in what they do. But you got to keep in mind, we have other responsibilities as well within the detective division, major crimes, and other areas of the department. There's no question that homicides are of the utmost priority, but I would also say that if your citizen and your house is broken into, that being investigated is a huge priority as well. So we have to play a balance as we go through the process of determining how we deploy resources. I would love to have 12 homicide detectives, but I also have to have detectives that investigate shootings where the victims survive. I have to have detectives investigate sexual assaults. I think we'd all agree that's a priority. So we are constantly monitoring that caseload, that workload. The detectives go out, they do the initial investigation, then it is assigned to a detective, and that is on a rotation with the 8 detectives. You also have to keep in mind we have civilian crime scene personnel that go out and do a majority of that work as well. They're also taxed, but they continue to show up every day. We provide them as much support as we can as a department, and yes, we would like to have more, but it is much larger than just homicide detectives. There are needs all over the place, and so that is the balance that we keep an eye on. And like I said, going back to 2002, all the way to present, and that number of homicides through the years is going to change, but the numbers have stayed pretty consistent through that time frame. I hope that answers your question. Number of detectives.
I realize there's no firm federal standard on this or anything as far as number of cases and caseload, but does it concern you that some of your homicide detectives may be working as many as double of what some of the kind of generally recognized experts might recommend?
You're correct in the fact that it's not an absolute standard number. It's always concerning when the detective's workload is pushed a little bit, and that's why we manage it. We watch it through our supervisors. We have a wellness unit that we reach out with them. We try to make sure we give them adequate time for vacation, take care of families. But again, it is a larger issue than just the homicide as we are balancing the staffing of our department. Because like I mentioned before, homicide is without a doubt our priority. If you look at our percentage rate this year, we're doing a phenomenal job of solving the cases. Yes, they are being worked, but I also want to point out when we have these vacancies, these are motivated individuals that raise their hand and want to go to those assignments. And we have to balance the other cases as well. So I acknowledge what you're asking. We would like to have more, but my response is what I just said. It's much larger than just staffing homicide. We got to balance that with the priorities across the city and other investigations.
Last question. Seeing none, thank you so much, everyone. Have a blessed day.